morning, dear friends. My name is Anna and I welcome you to my house. I'm very excited to share a cup of coffee with you and a friend of mine who is coming over at any moment. And while you and I got a few minutes together, I would like to share with you one very powerful morning practice technique. It's a journaling technique which called morning pages. A lot of famous and successful people use this technique and made it as a part of their daily routine. It's pretty simple. What you need to do is to wake up every morning, grab a journal and a pen, and write 3 pages of anything which crosses your mind. Why is this technique so powerful and helpful? It helps you to release your stress and anxiety. It helps you to clear and center your mind. It helps you to become more creative and come up with more ideas. And the most important thing, it helps you to quiet your main enemy, called your inner critic. While waiting for my friend, I would like to tell you that I'm ready to meet her today. I've got all the fruit on the table and croissant. I never knew how to pronounce this word correctly. Oh, that's the guest of mine coming over. Let me get the door. Hi, Elsa.
Hi, Anna.
So I've been just talking to our viewers about croissant.
Sure.
It's so confusing. I never understood how to pronounce this word correctly. Could you please teach me? And then, of course, our guests.
Okay, so how we say it is that we use the R a little bit differently. So we say croissant.
Croissant. It's like
Exactly.
the R stuck in your throat a little
Well,
bit.
it's kind of complicated when you're not a native speaker, but I'm sure you'll get there.
Let's practice one more time. Croissant.
Croissant, yeah.
Croissant.
Absolutely.
Well done. So let's do it one more time all together, and then you will get a little bit of French into your life.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Croissant.
All right, that's amazing. Thank you so much for teaching me this word. And then I welcome you to have breakfast together.
Thank
so
you.
Let's go. Have a sit. All right, Elsa. I hope you like today's breakfast idea. And let me get you some water first. Here you go.
Thank you.
And I would like to know more about France. I'm sure it's not only myself, but all our viewers would be happy to hear a little bit story of your life, you know?
Sure. Well, originally I'm from Paris, so everybody knows Paris, and it's a big city actually. We got about 12 million people there. I'm from the eastern part of it, which is a more, let's say, popular environment. So we've got like people from everywhere with all different classes.
Have you ever met people from Kurdistan or Iraq in Paris?
Actually, not that much. I mean, the one that I've met, and they mostly have Kurdish people coming from the Turkish side. So
Okay.
it wasn't, I never really met Kurdish people from Iraq or Iraqi people. I've met only a few, I think, throughout my time in Paris, which I actually spent most of my life there. I actually arrived here a couple of years ago. And
So how long you've been here exactly?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Was it only Erbil or any other parts of Kurdistan or maybe Iraq?
It was mostly Erbil. I went around Kurdistan a bit for traveling, for visiting. But
What is your favorite place which you visited?
actually, I like the mountains a lot. Like when I go to the mountains, and any kind of mountains in Kurdistan are really beautiful.
How about like mountains in France and then mountains here? Do you have a lot of mountains in France?
You've got lots of mountains in France, but I don't really go to the mountains there because it's kind of far from Paris. So it would take forever to get there. And if I would get there, then I would go for, a week maybe, because I would need to travel and come back. Here it's really convenient. You can go a couple of hours and you're there.
Yeah, it's not that far. Everything is pretty close situated.
Yeah.
That's right. That's true. That's right. And what do you miss the most? Like staying here for 2 years, and then maybe there is something you can't find in Erbil, which you would be usually getting in France, in Paris, especially. It's about everything. Maybe some kind of food, maybe social life.
Well, it's like when you are here, you got lots of options. I mean, you got the people are really nice and really welcoming generally. You've got really nice food, I have to say. You've got, lots of partying. We don't see that much, but if you really find the proper people to hang out with, if you're interested in spending some good times, you can really find your way through. And you have this community that you build across time. So it's really nice to have that feeling that you don't have at home. But at home, I have to say, I have much more independency. So I can take the transportation on my own. I don't need to rely, you know, like public transport is really well developed. I can go to the movies. I really enjoy going to the movies. And here it's kind of complicated because we don't have that many options. We do, but it's not the same way.
Yeah, that's right.
And then all these different places that I like to hang out with in Paris that I don't like to hang out, that I don't, get to hang out in here. So that's what I miss most.
And speaking of the community, I know that you've got a couple of hobbies here, frisbee and football. Yeah. So, and I guess like that's the group which you mostly interfere with.
Yeah, that's true.
You got your friends out there. So tell me about that, because I was surprised. I got added to the group, but I never tried playing yet, but hopefully I will join one day as well.
Yeah, actually I started last year with football. So a friend of mine added me to the group, and then I started joining. And then right away I found it very interesting because you don't have to be a good player. You can just join. It's for fun. It's a mixed group. We got several groups in our build, but this one is particular because girls are playing with the guys. And
so it's literally mixed group. There's no restrictions, nothing.
Exactly, and well, we got local people playing with foreign people as well. So it's mixed in all ways, actually.
And then is it the same group, or you often have new members coming?
Yeah, you got a turnover of people, but you have a center, like an amount of people that kind of always come back, and that's what
like the base of the group.
Yeah, exactly, like the base, the heart. Core part of the group that remains there. And then because you got foreign people coming in, coming out, you know, it's kind of like it's moving a bit.
Do you guys got your rules in the group? Like if there is something you will not follow, they will kind of ask you to leave the group. Maybe a few of those you can name so we can have an idea how does this work, you know? Because we always feel like, okay, if we get invited, we can do whatever we want, but it's not the case, right?
Yeah, so the thing is that we've got our guidelines, and one of them that is really important is you got to give the opportunity for everybody to be able to play. So it means that, you know, if you're a lady and you don't have that much experience, you still got the chance to play, and nobody should actually discriminate you in the playing, because the idea is to really be fair play
and encourage others to maybe learn and practice more. Because for example, if I come play frisbee, I know a little bit about football, I can do that, but if I come and join and play frisbee, I might drop this frisbee the first thing I do, you know, and then if I do not have this encouragement, I might get disappointed. So that's a very important
you know, it's normal because when you start, you don't know everything, and you're learning through. And the idea with these groups is we are giving you the chance to improve without judgment. We don't judge
you. Amazing.
And then once you get improved and you see that you can have more self-confidence in how you're playing, and then you build friendships too.
I think a lot of people need that, you know, in this society. Not only this, like in all over the world, encouragement is something sometimes is missing. You know, we can see all these motivational speakers on TV or social media, but when it gets to real life, a lot of times people try to turn the back, and then, you know, like if you didn't get it, sorry, not my problem. So we need this group of people always being on our side and encouraging. This is amazing. Thanks for sharing. Well, let's get back to the food. You you mentioned that you like local food. What is your favorite?
I would say one of the dishes that I really like here is dolma. So I really like it because it combines, you know, the vegetables that I like with this really nice mix of rice, meat in a very particular, you know, it's marinated, and that's why I like it, because it's really soft.
Have you learned how to?
And it's really tasty. I tried, but it's really, you know, it takes actually time to be able to master it.
And also, you know, from my personal experience, every time you get invited somewhere, you know, to some place, and every time it's already there. And all the dolma stays different, but they're always delicious.
They're always delicious.
This is amazing. And how about coffee? Would you like to have some?
Sure.
It's ready.
Thank you so much.
By the way, here you go. That's your mug.
Thanks.
And would you like to have some milk in it?
I'll be fine. Maybe later.
All right. I'll add some for myself here. All right. And here we go.
Look, taste.
All right. So the next question is.
Sure.
I think you mentioned some funny stories related to Kurdish language.
Oh yeah. So like once I got here, I tried to master a few words, and people don't necessarily see me as a foreign girl because you know, like here local girls, they usually they have like a tanner skin, a bit, it depends. They have like darker hair, and then they're not very tall like me, and they're curvy.
Basically, you're not recognized like a foreigner by your appearance.
Exactly. So, you know, I was like, okay, they might actually think that I could look Kurdish.
Yeah.
That can be helpful in some ways, but in others it's not helpful because, for example, I would say a few words just to try to adjust to the local culture, saying, for example, good morning, Bani Bash, or Bani Tan Bash. And then there will be like, they would move on, starting to make all these crazy sentences.
So they keep up the conversation, but it was the limit. So how do you say good morning in French?
Well, we say bonjour.
And the Kurdish?
And in Kurdish, it's a Bani Bash.
Perfect.
So it's like, and then as they would like go along with the talk, I would be like, hold on, I can't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And they really thought I was there. But one of the good things about being French, though, is what I like particularly, you're always welcome for some reason. So just, you know, for your own personal knowledge, when we actually, it was, I think in the 90s, we used to have a president, his name was François Mitterrand, and then he had a wife named Danielle Mitterrand. And Danielle Mitterrand is very famous because because she played a big role in the Kurdish uprising in the 90s.
Oh,
and in the fact that Kurdish people were trying to, you know, prone their independence and try to protect themselves from the regime, from the central regime. So that's why once you're like a French person here, you will always be welcome thanks to Danielle Mitterrand. And you got many places in Kurdistan where you have this Mitterrand name, like plazas, schools. It's very famous, and that's why I'm very like grateful to Kurdish people for welcoming us on behalf of this. I'm not trying to take too much advantage of it, but I have to say it's kind of an added value in a way. Yeah.
And this is amazing, and also it's really good that you know your history, and now being here in Kurdistan you can, you know, compare the consequences and see how your country and the leaders of your country affected some other places.
Of course.
Now you can see the result of it. Now, what have you noticed in yourself? What have changed with you and in yourself while living here? Because, you know, we tend to get new habits while living in some particular societies or surrounded by some particular people. So what is that you've learned, or maybe you've changed in your attitude or character?
So what I noticed was that before I used to be, so I was going to school, you know, when I was in France, I was going to school, I was working part-time, I was trying to be perfect in everything that I was doing. I was really career-driven, let's say. Well, I'm still career-driven, but when I got here, I realized that the most important was maybe not the professional aspect of it. Maybe I needed to take time for myself, maybe I need to take care of myself, I needed to bond to the people because this is part of the cultural experience. Yeah. You know, it's like once you get to a new place, the idea is to have like a holistic approach. Yes. By that I mean you want to be able to grab every aspect of the place that you're in. So
you can say that you became more present and, let's say, grounded in a way?
Yeah, in a way I would say, like, you know, bonding more with the people, trying to understand their stories. You know, you could really have some long-lasting friendship. Also the idea of really trying to make the most of it by trying to explore every different place, trying to have a different experience. That I see most foreign people here, usually they have their routine, you know?
Yes, that's true.
They go to work because they mostly come for work. So they go to work and then they go home. And I wanted to avoid that.
All right, Elsa, I suggest like we are ready for breakfast. Let's just move and have a breakfast on the table, all right? So let's grab the croissant and a coffee.
Absolutely,
so let's go.
Absolutely.
All right, so, you know, let's talk about your professional background and the journey, your career path, which took you here and then brought you to Kurdistan region at the first place.
Yes. So originally, I was in my last year of master's degree. I was in Paris. And I found this internship opportunity at the headquarters of a French NGO. NGO is a non-governmental organization, so you would say like it's a humanitarian sector organization. They work, you know, non-profit.
Yeah, so here's the question right here. NGO, a lot of people get confused. NGO, it's either non-profit organization or non-governmental organization. What is the difference?
So actually, the most organizations are both, meaning they are non-profit and they are non-governmental.
At the same time?
At the same time. That means that you got also some governmental organizations or like we call international organization. But this one, as most organizations working in that sector, they are non-profit and non-governmental. Non-profit means that it's not like a private sector business. So, you know, a private sector business, they're profit-oriented.
So they not get any income, let's say?
Well, that's the thing.
They not generate money.
So the private sector would generate money and then would re-inject that money into their business, while a non-governmental organization would try to fundraise from external sources, would do the job for the people, and then would need to find again new sources from external funding in order to do it again and again as a cycle. So that's how it works, and that's the reason why most non-governmental organizations that do not work for the governmental authorities, that do not work with the government, are working for the people and are usually generating activities from income they receive from external funding.
That's understood. And also, they generate activities first and then they look for funding, or they receive the funds and then they generate activities accordingly. How does it work?
Well, it depends, because usually, you know, at the beginning when you form an organization, a non-governmental and non-profit organization, you need in a way to be able to prove that you are able to do activities or to be efficient in the work that you do in order to receive funding. So if you don't have that, it's going to be complicated for you to receive that funding. So in order to start at the beginning, it takes time. It usually takes subsidies from, sometimes you can have private, you know, sectors, even funding organizations. You can have sometimes authorities also helping out on the funding
because they already have the activities, right, in mind, or the projects, and then they ask you to implement those.
So it depends.
It happens like that as well, right?
Yeah, so you have like these these donors who will be very flexible, and then you'll be quite free to do whatever you want based on the assessments that you do on the locations where you want to be implementing. And then at the same time, you've got these donors who know what they want. They already have a clear idea of what the organization should do.
And I guess it's easier to deal with those because you can just get in touch.
Like because, you know, like if you have a clear idea of how you should do it, I think the most important thing to really consider is how is your relationship with the donor. If your relationship is very good with the organization that is funding you, then it will be much easier for you to do the job, regardless of the level of freedom that you have, because the organizational level of the donor is very important in how you're going to be able to implement your activities, because you've got all these what we call compliance with the donor. You need to be very like this, very much like that, not very much like this.
So you have to meet all the requirements, and then
yeah.
if you do, everyone is happy. That
Exactly.
is great. So now I think it's more or less clear on the main work of the NGOs. But how about your work experience? You said that you started straight away after your master's degree, you said?
Yes. So I got at the headquarters of that French NGO. We've got several French NGOs, like big French NGOs in France that do operate as well in the Middle East. And I got the opportunity to do that internship. And then after that, I waited a few months and I was selected to come here as a, let's say, first level entry job
They call it like volunteer, let's say.
So it's like a volunteer status, but you still do get some
financial support, which is good.
Yeah, you got all the expenses covered for your.
So can you tell me more about the education? Because like if we've got somebody, some of our young viewers willing to work later on in this NGO sector, what should they graduate? What do they need to aim for?
Yeah, it's you know it's always a tricky question because we get people coming from so many different backgrounds. I mean, personally, I graduated from international relations, which is, you know, it's interesting because you get an overview of everything, and it makes you. And until today, even 3 years after I graduated, I still have some flashbacks of like what I was studying and how it actually helped. But you've got like all different kinds of options in what you should study.
So once again, in order to find a career path in NGO, non-governmental or non-profit organizations, what the student, let's say, has to attain in terms of degree? In terms of degree, yes.
So like usually it's better if you get a master's degree of, let's say, that could be any topic such as international relations, project management. Here I know they do have a program in diplomacy and international relations. That could be an example. The problem is that we don't have a particular degree that fits what's needed in terms of like at the level of the humanitarian sector. So anything that touches more or less the topic will be welcome. But of course, I mean, a bachelor's degree will be enough if you want to be able to start. But if you want to be able to work abroad, then a master's degree would be required.
Something required.
Most of the time, yeah.
That's great, that's understood. And let's talk about your NGO you work for at the moment in Erbil.
Right.
What exactly do you do? Any projects you can talk about so we also understand what's going on in this field?
So I have, so right now I'm working for a local organization. You know, there are many local organizations here that do a lot of fantastic work, and my goal was to be able to be part of that as well. And right now I'm working in the program department. So what you gotta know is that we usually get the support department on one side and the program on the other part.
Okay, and so basically two parts of it.
Yeah, and the support will contain everything related to HR, logistics, finance, and so on. While the program will support the operational level of the work that we do. And what I usually do, my usual day is like I take care of the reporting for donors. Because we do have a lot of reporting.
So which part do you cover?
The programmatic part, yes.
Okay.
I do take care of grants, trying to raise as much funding as possible,
so
partnerships.
To keep the organization running.
Absolutely.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and then we got a lot of meetings as well with partners, with donors.
Do you have local donors sometimes, or they're all coming from abroad?
Usually, okay, if we do have local donors, then that means that themselves received funding from abroad.
Oh.
So it's usually rare to have local funding, because like, there are some organizations that manage to get funding from here, but usually it's because there are philanthropists. So like we would get funding from like private, you know, single donors here, but more as like, oh, I am a philanthropist, I want to help my community, I have money to give, and I'll do that.
And they usually like high rank people or famous.
Exactly.
And then if they do they like to name themselves, or they want to be
they prefer to be. They usually prefer to be anonymous.
Yeah.
They usually prefer that. But most of the time, we do get funding from abroad. So we would say UN agencies that receive themselves funding from some other stakeholders, and then we do get, you know, funding from many different sources.
So I understand you run a lot of different projects.
Yes.
Can you tell me about one which inspires you the most, you like it, and then you're really happy to work with that one?
Sure. So we do get like for example, we work a lot with the children. We have education projects. We do have child protection projects. We also work in gender-based violence for women. And we do also sensitize men to the approach, because the goal is to be able to reach men and women in the approach of gender-based violence, making sure that this is a topic that reaches everybody. And then we, as well, we do have some projects related to human rights, and we do works with, for example, with prisoners, juvenile justice. We also have peace building, reconciliation, and social cohesion projects. We also have. This is like mostly the work that we do, but we have these cross-cutting topics that include, for example, more, let's say, it includes topics that should be reached sustainably over time. So, for example, the idea of environment should be
you cannot just complete one project and just leave it alone. So you have to work consistently in terms of
reaching as many girls as possible, reaching as many children with disabilities as possible, reaching to as many women as possible.
So basically, these are range of projects you're working on. Like, what is your favorite?
Well, my favorite is my favorite is what we're doing right now. For example, with everything that happened, the pandemic, we've had to reorganize everything, and it was quite an exercise because we had to think, well, we have a lot of projects that we had to suspend, and we've had lots of issues with that because we were thinking, well, what's going to happen to our projects, what's going to happen to our beneficiaries, and we came up with the help from partners, with the help from what we call clusters, because we do have clusters, thematic clusters, with all of the partners working on all these different thematics. Well, we discussed these issues, and we came up with plenty of guidance on different topics. And one of them that I like is that we came up with guidance on what we call psychosocial support.
That's interesting.
We have it for children, and then for example, we have it for various ranges of beneficiaries, but mostly for children.
Is that for some particular situations or in general? Anybody who faces some problems in this area, they can get the support? Or
the thing is that most of the time, as we work in vulnerable areas, whether it's in camp or out of camp, so we have this ability to use this guidance in order to reach these people. But of course, these approaches can be used for anybody, because what happened is that children probably, with that situation of lockdown, people got more stressed, and then maybe there was a rise in domestic violence at home. Who knows? Maltreatment, and you gotta be able to reach these people as well.
So basically, if you simplify that, like we had this areas like camps where people could not leave. They could not. But now everyone got stuck in home, and then they experienced those feelings as well. And then that's why you're saying that all these materials which you guys created could be helpful for anybody. So I think we can share the link here.
Of course. For
those materials, so anybody who's interested could reach out. And then I have a few comments in that because I went through them. They are developed for different ages. Age groups for kids age 6 to 9, then 12, and then 14 and up.
And we got it like for preschoolers, and then early pre-teenagers, and then for teenagers as well.
So basically, if you go through this link, you can download those materials and go through them. Those materials teach you how to protect yourself during the pandemic, what to do if you feel stressed, what to do at home if you feel bored, how to communicate with parents and children if it happens that you have anger breakdown, or you don't really know what to do. A lot of games, a lot of activities are listed in there. A few of them, it's like puzzles, or maybe you can plant little plants into the plastic bottles, so you do recycling at the same time. So this project is indeed very helpful, very interested, and the most important thing is free and accessible to everybody. Just need to download and then read and pick the activity which suits to your age group, your children. Maybe if you're 14 years old, you can help your little sisters or brothers, or share this with your parents as well.
Absolutely, and I have to say, I have to add to that, the documents are not only available in English, you got them as well in Kurdish and Arabic. So if you know anybody who you feel that could be helpful
They need that support. Can you name it again? What is the name of this project and the materials you developed?
Yeah, so these are, this doesn't necessarily have like a name for a project, but the name of the topic generally is called psychosocial support, and we usually name it PSS as an acronym.
PSS.
So because it says like PSS for psychosocial support.
Psychosocial support.
Yes.
So please research this topic, follow the link and download the materials, which could be really helpful for anybody who's feeling down, stressed, especially in this situation of the pandemic and lockdown. And then while we can't travel, we can really learn what do we feel and take care of ourselves through these materials.
Absolutely, that's the best way to go.
And since we reached this area, how about advice? Do you have any advice you would like to give to our viewers, maybe our young viewers and then adults at the same time?
Yeah, so you know, like my goal is not, when I came here, you know, I don't like the idea of, I come from France and I have all these ideas and nobody does things right here and I would like to show everyone how they were. No, that's not my goal.
How to do it in the right way, yes.
Of course, because we've got so many different, you know, like we've got so many different cultural aspect parameters that get into what we do, and there's no right or wrong. I mean, it's a different setting, let's say, with all the differences that come into play with this. So the idea is, what I try to give the best advice possible based on my experience here, knowing what I've seen here, what I've experienced here. And, you know, I've noticed that most of the time, children or teenagers, I mean, generally, people who were about to get into, let's say, the university environment, they did not necessarily have any kind of prospects. You know, it's not easy to be here because the situation is not stable the way it is in, for example, Europe. So the best way you can do, the best way you can manage that situation is to really try to make, you know, you have to take initiatives, and you have to. I've met a few people here who were really inspiring because they managed to take that thing around and say, well, the system is not giving me what I need, or
so I will create
it by myself.
So what you're saying, it's not like don't make the goal to just study, go to the university and then that's it, stay at home. Try to think, starting from your school age, if you grade 10, 11, 12, start thinking of new projects, and you know that you can do it as a young citizen. You can create something new, you can invent, become an inventor, you know, create new things. Don't only focus on the educational terms and conditions. You can start working, creating new things right now. So
absolutely.
Do you have any examples of it? Like you said that you've met a couple of people here who created something. Can you give a few examples so we can really understand what you mean?
Sure. So I know that, for example, when it comes to the language, I know that many people were complaining here about the fact that they were not able to learn proper English. I mean, you know, or any other languages that they were interested in. So what they did, well, they came up and they were interested in some different languages, and they did the learning themselves. So they started, they went on. The good thing is that we've got some nice internet here that's working well. So better make the best use of it. And then they went and they did the self-learning, and then they went and reached out to people who might be able to help them, and they were proactive in their démarche, you know. They didn't necessarily wait for anything to happen.
So they did not only accept what
the system was giving them.
So they tried to improve their knowledge by themselves.
And they did that for, I know some people who did that for languages, some people who did that for businesses, came up with their businesses very early age.
Like any idea of that?
Well, like topics, I know that I don't have like a clear idea in mind of what they came up with, but I know that there are here some they have different kind of you know, incubation houses where you can actually come up with your idea by you are getting help in.
So basically, you gather
different topics,
you know, and then everybody is sharing their ideas, like
Exactly.
brainstorming and trying to find the way to bring this project to life, and
Exactly.
then sharing the ideas, inspiring each other. I also heard of it, so it's a great idea. And
Yeah,
when I learned that these places exist here in Erbil, I was really surprised,
Yeah.
because it's a common practice all over the world.
Yeah, and these
Yeah,
are actually funded by European. One of them is funding by the Ministry of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and another one I know was funded by a German, the main German donor here. So these are all great resources that young people here should
everybody
use.
just need to do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
Do not wait for your parents, for your teachers, your preachers
No, not at all.
to feed you the information. Do your own research, get on that, and make some change.
Exactly.
All right, Elsa, that was a very beautiful conversation, amazing breakfast, the best morning ever. So thanks to Home Style Kitchen for our today's setting and allowing us to have a wonderful show today. Thank you.